Satoru knocked on Saelah's apartment door and waited. He was picking her up for their second date. A minute later, the front door opened and she stood before him. She was dressed in a pair of high-waisted shorts and off-the-shoulder coral crop top with matching shoes. She looked gorgeous, and before she could even greet him, Satoru leaned in and kissed her. When they pulled apart, she raised an amused brow at him and he smirked. "We've established that I don't play by the rules," he reminded, "and I didn't want to wait until the end of the date." She gave him that gorgeous smile. "I'm not complaining." Saelah closed the door behind her and Satoru took her hand in his, leading the way down the stairs. He'd opted not to drive since the only reason he normally did was that he didn't like the crowds on the train, but it hadn't been too bad on his way there since it was the middle of most people's workdays. They made the journey to the train station with Satoru indulging himself in her scent. She smelled like a cinnamon baked treat with a complimenting cup of tea. He enjoyed it. When they reached the train, they found seats and were soon off. He thought they could do something fun on their date, so they were going to a karaoke bar. Once they got to their stop, Satoru headed towards the karaoke bar. He was tempted to stop at a bakery they passed, but figured they could do that on their way back. Satoru paid for their room when they arrived, and once inside, they looked at the provided menu of snacks. He planned for them to get dinner after they left there. They put in an order for a couple of snacks and drinks, then scrolled through the selection of songs. Saelah chose a duet for them to do to kick off their private show. They'd finished 2 duets, and he was looking for a song to sing when there was a knock on the door. He got up to answer it, thanking the attendant as he took the tray of snacks from them. He placed the tray on the table and looked up at the screen where a song was waiting to start. "You should sing this one," Saelah suggested. The category was pop, and he was sure it was some upbeat song. He'd never heard of it, but didn't mind. "Sit back and prepare to hear the best performance of your life," he said, picking up the microphone. "I can't wait," she responded with a smile. Saelah started the song, and the upbeat tempo filled the room. Satoru had never heard the song before, but followed along with the words on the screen as he threw in some smooth dance moves. Saelah danced along in her seat as she cheered him on. Halfway through the song, he pulled her up to dance with him, and she laughed as he twirled her. When the song ended, they went back to the couch to indulge in some snacks while he scrolled through the categories looking for something for Saelah to sing. He came across a song he hadn't heard in a while. It was someone singing about the what-ifs of confessing to their crush, and he queued it up on the screen. "You have your work cut out for you, little alpha," Satoru stated. "My performance was spectacular after all." Saelah laughed before popping a snack into her mouth. I'll have to give it my all, but I don't know how I'm going to live up to such a splendid show," she teased. "It will be rather hard," he jested, and she bumped him with her shoulder. She picked up the microphone and stood. Satoru started the song. It was a ballad, so there wasn't much performing she could do, but he learned during their 2 duets that she had a pleasant singing voice and he wanted to hear it cover the song. Saelah chose the serenade route and pulled him up. She sang the first several lines before pulling him in closer, and they slow danced as she serenaded him. Satoru found himself so lost in gorgeous hazel eyes that it wasn't until the song ended and they stopped swaying that he realized she hadn't looked at the screen once the song started and was familiar with it. He leaned down and gave her a soft peck, unable to help himself, and now that he didn't have to hold back, he knew he would be stealing kisses often. They returned to the couch, and instead of immediately looking for another song, he propped his arm on the back of the couch and turned to her. "I thought you'd like to know I have several ideas for your birthday, but I remember you said Denny might want to plan something too, so I'll have to get his number so we can coordinate." He sighed. "Kento doesn't know what he's missing." "What exactly did you plan for him in the past that made him ban you from all forms of planning?" He thought about it briefly. "There was the time I hired hip-hop dancing clowns to perform their signature happy birthday dance. Another year I took him to a special mime show and they trapped him in a box, but he killed the illusion by just walking off stage. Oh, I also took him to see a show he'd been anticipating seeing, except I mixed up the name and we ended up at a film noir silent stage play that was lacking." Saelah started laughing, covering her mouth as her shoulders shook, eyes wide. "So you planned shenanigans," she said once she'd gotten her laughing under control. "I might have banned you too if you had done that to me year after year." He gasped in faux shock, and she giggled. "I'm surprised Suguru hasn't also banned you." "He can't ban me from something he may or may not show up to. Kento has better manners than he does," Satoru teasingly replied. "It's also his loss." Saelah shook her head playfully as she smiled at him, and again he found himself drawn in. His lips brushed hers briefly before he leaned away. "Well, I can't wait to see what you and Denny plan. Let me text him really quickly to let him know you want his number." She pulled her phone out and sent a text while Satoru grabbed one of the snacks and popped it into his mouth. Denny responded to her almost immediately and she texted Satoru his contact. They stayed there for another hour, singing more songs individually and a couple of duets. When they were outside headed to the train station, Satoru pulled her into the bakery they'd passed. She laughed but allowed him to pull her inside. They got some sweets before continuing their journey to the station. "How do you feel about picking up dinner and going to my place to plan our upcoming trip?" he asked. "We can do that," she responded. It was 6 in the evening, so the train had far more people than there had been before. They found one seat, and Satoru gestured her into it as he stood in front of her. She took the bakery box from him and placed it in her lap, locking her index finger around his on his free hand. They got off at the stop closest to his condo, stopped at a restaurant on the way to order dinner, and once they had it, continued the 7-block walk to his place. Once inside his condo, he gave her a pair of purple slippers. He hadn't known when she would visit his place, but he wanted to make sure that she had a pair when she did. To his knowledge, they all had a pair for her at their homes. "I'll give you the grand tour after we eat," he said as they unpacked the food at the dining table. As they sat and ate, he sparked up a game of 20 questions. He learned something new about her every time they spoke, but Satoru wanted to know everything. While that wasn't plausible to do all at once, or at all, because he was sure no matter how much time they spent together, they'd always learn something new about the other. He enjoyed learning about her. After they finished eating, Satoru gave her a tour of his condo. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a small den he turned into an art archive. She looked around at the drawings hanging on the walls. He was glad he hadn't put up the one he'd drawn of her. He didn't want her to have weird thoughts about it, especially since he'd drawn it before they ever had a conversation. "You're very talented, Satoru," she told him. "The details in these drawings are amazing." "Thank you, little Alpha," he replied. "Shall we start planning?" he asked. She nodded, and he led the way back into the living room. He opened his laptop on the coffee table where he'd left it the night before, and they got down to planning their weekend away. 2 hours had passed by the time they felt they had everything decided on. Satoru enjoyed planning it with her. He could admit that sometimes he went a bit overboard with things, and she'd reeled him in without dismissing what he wanted to do, but suggesting something similar that she thought the other two would enjoy too. They took the elevator down to the parking garage, and Satoru led her over to his car. She told him she'd be fine taking the train home, but he wasn't letting her go alone. It was almost 10 o'clock, and he wasn't letting her leave on her own. The car ride was taken in comfortable silence, and he was pulling up in front of the flower shop before he knew it. Satoru walked her to the door. "Thank you for taking me out. I had fun today." "You don't need to thank me. I enjoy taking you out." She rose on her tiptoes, and he leaned down to meet her in the kiss she wanted as he cupped the side of her face. This one was steeper than the previous ones, and he slipped his tongue into her mouth. She tasted sweet, like the dessert they had. He pulled away with the final peg. "Good night, Satoru. Let me know when you get home." "I will. Good night, Saelah," he responded. He watched her go inside before returning to his car. He inhaled her scent that lingered in his car the entire way home. When he stepped through his front door, he changed into his slippers, breathing in the cinnamon that settled softly in the space. Going over to his couch, he collapsed on it and took a deep breath. He enjoyed her scent in his den. He would savor it because he knew it would dissipate before long. Saelah put the finishing touches on the lemon cake. Of everything she could think of, she decided it was her best option. Time had flown by, and the day had arrived much faster than she anticipated, but she was excited. Carefully, she packed the cake into the box and grabbed the bag to put it in to make it easier to transport. She went to her bedroom and grabbed the gift bag off the dresser before returning to the kitchen and putting it on top of the cake box in the bag. She double-checked that she had everything she needed before leaving Denny a note on the fridge. Saelah could have sent him a text, but he'd worked the previous night and was sleeping. He was always acutely aware of his phone, even while asleep, and she didn't want to wake him. After checking the time, she went to the entry, switched her shoes, and headed out of the apartment. She'd ordered a taxi, and it would be there any minute. Saelah didn't have to wait long for the taxi, and once inside, she gave the driver the address. She rarely minded taking the train, but she wanted to be careful transporting the cake. She thanked the driver when they arrived at their destination, checking the names on the 2 doors that were side by side. She ensured she entered the correct business. "Hello," the receptionist greeted in English. Saelah smiled at her. It always amused her a bit that people always assumed she spoke English from her appearance, which she understood, though it could have been French or Spanish. "Hello," she responded. "How can I help you?" the woman behind the desk inquired, switching to Japanese since she responded in the language. "I'm here to see Kento," Saelah responded. "Do you have an appointment with Nanami-san?" She shook her head. "No, I'm not a client. She paused because she wasn't sure of the term to use. Suguru had called her his girlfriend, but she didn't want to take it upon herself and assume in the event that wasn't the title Kento would prefer. They weren't mates either, so she wouldn't use that term. The 3 men had distinct personalities, so it wasn't too far off to think they might look at their relationship with her differently and prefer specific titles. "I'm a friend," she settled on. "I thought I recognized that voice." Saelah turned to find Kento exiting an office to the right. He wrapped an arm around her waist and kissed her temple before speaking against it. "And I would hope we were more than friends, pretty." He turned his attention to the receptionist. "Saelah, this is Ume. Ume, this is Saelah. She has given me the great honor of courting her." She could feel her cheeks heating with a blush at his words. Aside from the 4 of them and Denny, no one else knew they were courting her. Not that she had anyone else to tell, and once they marked her, everyone who saw her would know she was being courted by someone, or well, 3 someones. She hadn't realized the butterflies she'd get in her stomach when she heard one of them say they were courting her. "It's nice to meet you," Saelah said. "You as well," Ume replied. "Let's go into my office," Kento said. He gestured her into the office, closing the door behind them. "What brings you by?" She smiled at him. "It's your birthday." She put the bag she was holding on top of the desk. She removed the gift bag, putting it aside and taking out the cake box. A little birdie told me you didn't really like sweets, but since you seem to enjoy the lemon cake I made, she said, opening the box. I thought it was a safe bet, even though you should have told me you didn't like sweets. She pouted slightly. I don't dislike them, I just don't eat them often. But you're right, I really enjoyed that cake. This is perfect. Thank you, pretty. He leaned down and kissed the pout off her lips. I also got you something, she said, handing him the gift bag. Saelah watched him remove the decorative paper before pulling out 2 books. I saw you had the first 2 when I was over and thought you'd enjoy the rest of the series. He smiled at her. Thank you. I finished the second book a couple of days ago, so this is perfect timing. He put the books back in the gift bag. Do you have some time right now? I do, she replied. My next client isn't for almost 2 hours. Would you like to have lunch with me? Of course, birthday boy. Where would you like to go? There's a nice little ramen shop a few blocks down. Does that work for you? Whatever you want works for me. It's your birthday, we're celebrating. Kento forwent his suit jacket that hung on the rack by the door as they exited the office. Once he informed Ume he would return before his next appointment, they exited the building and he settled his hand on the small of her back, guiding her the few blocks to the ramen shop. I bought a cute little Polaroid camera. I found it when I was getting your books, she told him when they were seated and waiting for their food. I'm going to take it with us this weekend to Atami. She thought it would be a good idea to scrapbook their first trip together. They were marking her on that trip, so in a way, it was the official start of their courtship. The past 2 weeks had seemed to fly by, between the anticipation of spending an uninterrupted weekend with him and a project she'd been working on for a client. The days had passed quickly. If you allow Satoru to use it, you'll only have pictures of him, he teased, and she laughed. You enjoy giving him a hard time, she said. I do, but he's a good sport about it, and I wouldn't change who he is. Don't tell him, though. Saelah smiled at him. Your secret is safe with me. Are you excited? Kento asked. I am. It's my first trip since we moved to Tokyo. She paused as she felt her cheeks heat. I also get to spend it with the 3 of you, so, yeah. That makes 2 of us. She tilted her head and gave him a teasing smile. You're excited to spend time with the 3 of you, too. Kento chuckled. Cute. They were leaving early Saturday morning, and since none of them wanted her to make her way to the station alone to meet them, Suguru was spending Friday night in the apartment above his shop and picking her up Saturday morning for them to go together. They enjoyed their lunch, and when they finished, Saelah paid despite Kento's protest, but she reminded him that it was his birthday and she was treating him. I'll get you a taxi, Kento said as they walked back to his office. You don't have to do that. It's fine. I don't mind taking the train. He pulled her into his side. Pretty, as the alpha courting you, I want to. Let me. Saelah nodded, conceding, and he pulled his phone out to order her one. He waited outside his office building with her until the taxi arrived. When it did, Kento opened the back door for her. Thank you for coming to see me. It was a pleasant surprise. You're welcome, she responded. I wanted to let you know I was thinking about you on your day. She hadn't wanted to send him a birthday text or just call, so she got his office address from Suguru so she could surprise him. Kento gave her a soft kiss. Let me know when you arrive home. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day, Kento, she replied before sliding into the back seat of the taxi. She gave him a small wave as the taxi pulled off. She didn't have any more work to do for the day or clients to meet with unless it was an emergency, so she decided when she got home she would pack for their trip so it was done and she wasn't scrambling Friday night to do so. Leaning back in her seat, she watched Tokyo pass outside of the window as she headed home.